What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to get you all caught up on Project Dynamo Now, Project Raiden 2. That's right, the cat is out of the bag, and the game I'm going to be going with is Raiden 2 in my full-size, my real arcade cabinet. There's some things going on here besides just your typical arcade restoration project. There's some modifications that I'm doing. The biggest one was actually changing the orientation of the monitor from horizontal to vertical. Was I able to pull it off? Is this a total disaster and do I have to start over from scratch? Well, why don't you check out the video and find out. Alright, so we're going to get started by getting rid of the old to make way for the new. So as beautiful as the Surf Planet artwork is, it's got to go. Black T-molding is about as generic as you can possibly get when it comes to these cabinets, and I think I want to go for something just a little bit different. Nothing too crazy, but black is just a little too monochromatic for what I have in mind for this cabinet. And of course, that beautiful PCB is also going to have to go. It's in really good shape. I think I'm going to have to find a new home for this guy. eBay, get ready for a new listing. That control panel was definitely butchered to make way for that ridiculous left and right joystick, so sandblasting and some gentle persuasion with a hammer, as well as some grinding, were needed to get it back in shape. Moving these arcades around is no small feat, and it's really stressful when you just finished painting your basement floor. So to eliminate some of that stress, I'm going to go ahead and add some of these casters in place of your standard floor levelers. Before I move on to the T-molding installation, I wanted to touch up some of the blemishes on the side panels with some black paint. The very first modification that I did to this cabinet was replacing that old standard light bulb socket fixture with a 24-inch LED strip that I picked up from Home Depot. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that art application is kind of fun for me. I really enjoy it. It's kind of the signal of the end of a project, but this one for some reason really fought me. Maybe it was the blemishes and the imperfections in that metal control panel. I'm not sure what it was, but it wasn't as enjoyable as it could have been or should have been, but I got the job done. So with that little bit of frustration out of the way, now it was time to move on to the T-molding installation, and yeah, I'm going with gray. I know it's not the most vibrant color out there, and these, for the most part, these FabTech cabinets were extremely plain and they had black T-molding, but I thought that the gray would kind of match the side art and make it pop just a little bit. Now, as you work your way around your cabinet, make sure you remove pie-shaped pieces out of the T portion of the T-molding when you come to a concave corner. And then when it comes to those convex corners, just take a few slices out of the T portion of the T-molding. That's going to give you enough of a relief to allow that to bend and conform to that tight radius. The game Raiden 2 only requires 2 action buttons, and the selection is really up to you because this Dynamo control panel has 6 per player. I'm going to go with the top 2, just for comfort. Time to fabricate the most important panel on the entire arcade, and that's going to be the monitor support panel, which, remember, that orientation has completely changed, so we've got to start with a new piece. This is 3/4 inch MDF, and then we're going to mark the hole based on measurements I took of the monitor itself. Now you can see I started to make this cut with the jigsaw. While the jigsaw is a fine tool, I found that it was easier to make those long straight cuts with a circular saw. So I started with a plunge cut and got the majority of that line cut, and then I went back to the jigsaw to finish up the corners. Now, to be honest, there was a first attempt of this that I did not film because I got a little bit frustrated. I tried to put the monitor mount on the monitor and then put the assembly into the cabinet. That didn't work out at all. Now, the controls are not yet installed in this cabinet, but I wanted to temporarily plug in the PCB to make sure that it works and to test out that monitor. During that first test fitting, I found that the chassis mount or the back frame of the monitor was hitting the back of the cabinet. But instead of modifying the cabinet, I thought, well, maybe I'll just modify this frame somehow. It has different mounting holes, I would imagine, for mounting in different cabinets, but that created its own set of issues. Specifically, I was going to lose the ability to adjust the red, green, and blue pots that are mounted on the neck board. So to give me that access, I decided to go ahead and slide the chassis down ever so slightly and drill new mounting holes. It turned out to be a pretty simple solution that minimizes the amount of modification while giving you the access you need for adjustments when this is mounted inside the cabinet. Now, this 25-inch monitor's got a little bit of weight to it, and needless to say, I was extremely happy when it fit and it was centered inside the cabinet. Another thing that I was really happy to see was that the chassis placement was not out of the reach of the stock wiring connectors. So the power was good. The only thing I had to change was my ground connection. I just took it off the one side of the chassis frame and moved it to the other side. The connections for the video wires are also in reach, which is really nice. And yes, that is a bloody napkin you see in my hand. This stuff's dangerous, folks, and it's not for the faint of heart. Alright, well, that is going to do it for Project Raiden, at least so far. The biggest hurdle has definitely been overcome, coming up with a new monitor mount to take this from a horizontal to a vertical orientation. Raiden looks really good. I got a little bit of discoloration on the monitor. That happened when I actually flipped it. I rotated it, so I'm going to have to deal with that. I believe there's some, it's called degassing, so I got to get a degasser. I don't know, forgive my ignorance, but I don't know exactly what that's going to entail. But beyond that, the monitor looks really good. And then, of course, the next step is going to be the monitor support panel, which is another piece of plywood that's going to sit right here. I've got to cut that out now because our orientation is different. The old one just isn't going to cut it. I still have the glass. We're going to have to come up with some new artwork, which is going to be kind of fun to do around this thing. I'm not going to get too crazy, but it is going to be Raiden 2 themed. The side panels are fairly generic. That's the way these cabinets came originally. But I am going to get a little bit, game specific when it comes to the bezel. Obviously, you've seen what we've done with the control panel on the bottom. Once that's taken care of, then the last thing to do is actually the control panel itself. Going to put those new IL controls in, wire it all up, and give this thing a real test. That's going to be next time. So thanks everybody for stopping by, checking out the channel, hanging out with me on this project. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see all of you next time. Let's get this thing done.